What is up, guys? Welcome to Pistons Talk Podcast. Hope you guys are having a great Monday evening. I wanted to try something different. We've been kind of doing podcasts throughout the week, short form podcasts around 25 to 30 minutes, but they've been mostly premieres. They haven't been live streams. This is an actual live stream. So if you are watching live right now, I will be able to see your comments. But what we're going to be discussing today, as you guys can see, Javonte Green signing. We're going to kind of get into that. Malik Beasley Snapchats, and we also did get an update on maybe that final roster spot. And it should be a really fun short episode today, but we're going to get into the Javonte Green signing, So this morning, we got a tweet from Shams Charania stating free agent forward Javonte Green is finalizing a one-year deal with the Detroit Pistons. Sources tell ESPN Green split last season in Cleveland and New Orleans and now enters his seventh NBA campaign as a defensive-minded wing. That comes straight from Shams Charania, so you know it's a reliable source. Pistons before that point had 13 active players on the roster. They now have 14. It's something. I do also want to kind of put another tweet on the screen from Pistons Strong Griff, one of my favorite follows on Twitter, if you guys haven't. His kind of comments on this move, saying, love this move for the Pistons. Even though Green is only 6'5" and has a 7-foot wingspan, he has regularly guarded fours in the NBA. He's a great defender and an improved shooter who should be a real nice depth piece in Detroit. So a little bit about him, 6'5", 7-foot wingspan, has spent some time in the NBA, got his start in Boston, and has played for the Bulls, the Pelicans, and the Cavs. The way I looked at the signing, you guys, is this. When I look at a Javonte Green, it kind of reminds me of when the Pistons traded for Wendell Moore in 2024 last summer. I think Javonte Green is going to kind of have a Wendell Moore Jr. type of role on this basketball team. If you guys remember, he was the end of the bench, didn't really get to play a whole lot, but when he did, he made the most of his opportunities. And he played in some pretty big games. There's an in-season tournament game he played against the Raptors. I think Javonte Green is gonna kind of have a similar role with the Pistons. I know some people, when they saw the signing, pretty pissed off initially, and I can kind of understand it when you kind of look at some holes on this roster. We've talked about backup power forward. We've talked about backup point guard, but it'll be interesting to kind of see what his role on this basketball team could possibly be. Also kind of went on Basketball Reference, just looking at his overall stats. If we just want to focus on this year where he played with the Pels and the Cavs, not like the best numbers, nothing flashy, but, end of the bench type of piece, a defensive-minded wing. So we'll see. We'll see what will happen with that. Ryan, I wonder if Green will see anything other than garbage time. I'm not entirely sure, Ryan. Like I said, he could just be a break the glass type of shooting guard, small forward type. So he spent most of his time at shooting guard as of late. I've read some articles that a lot of people stated that he did guard power forwards. He's strong enough to guard power forwards, being 6'5", having that 7-foot wingspan does help. But again, it's kind of just a depth signing at this point, end of the bench type of guy. We'll see how much JB does actually use him. Because I kind of feel like when you look at shooting guard on this team and you look at small forward on this team, like you have Jaden Ivey, you sign Karis LeVert, you got Duncan Robinson, you have Asar Thompson, Ron Holland. Who knows? The young OG 313 on YouTube says the signing could have gone without announcing. Yeah, I mean it's kind of like a meh signing. Like when you get the notification from ESPN, you're kind of like, who? But hey, we'll see what happens with Javonte Green. I'm not really expecting a whole lot, from him, but it'll be interesting to kind of see like what his pathway is to minutes if there are at all. But who knows? Organic Lindo, what up though? I am doing a live stream podcast for the first time in quite a while. Just wanted to talk to you guys for a little bit, but hey, happy that you guys are watching right now. Rain Height Fitness with the laughing emoji. Maybe that was a little bit of disrespectful on my end because I did the Snoop Dogg who. If you know, you know. But I did kind of want to transition into our next topic on this podcast, you guys, and it's Malik Beasley. So on Thursday, there were a couple of videos that he did post on his Snapchat that we're going to be playing for you guys right now. This is the first one, and he kind of gave an update for the first time since the gambling allegation. So here's the first video.
I feel like people turn their backs on me. Low key, I mean, like, people were saying some crazy things in the media. If you go on my Instagram, you'll see the craziest shit. People judging me. Have I made mistakes in my life? Yes. Am I proud of those mistakes? No. I'm human. But, I know what I know. Like I said, from my girl, summer continues, until something else is done, then I just got to stay positive, stay low-key, stay grinding. Tell you one thing, I got a chip on my shoulder. I'm ready to destroy anybody in front of me. I'm ready to prove again that I belong in this league. For those who know me, I work too hard. I work every day. I put basketball before anything. And so, yeah.
So there's a lot to kind of dig into with those Snapchats that he posted last week. I think the one thing of listening to that is obviously he still wants to be in the NBA. The allegations, I think, just came at the wrong time, like a day before free agency started. Pistons were reportedly going to give him a 3-year mid-level exception deal. And obviously they had the pivot with Karis LeVert and Duncan Robinson. But you can just tell listening to that video, still wants to play basketball, feels like he's got to prove himself again. I'll just say this. I don't really think Malik Beasley has to prove himself as a basketball player again. I think what we saw last season being number 2 in the entire NBA in three-pointers made, breaking a Detroit Pistons franchise record in three-pointers made. I think we know what type of basketball player he is. I don't really think a lot of people are questioning what he can do on the basketball court. The only problem is right now is everyone in the media has their opinions on a situation where we don't really have a whole lot to discuss or even react to because nothing has really happened. I mean, there's been reports that he hasn't paid his rent. Like, we already knew that. There's been, a whole, deep dive podcast by PTFO. And like, you watch that episode, it really wasn't too much about Malik Beasley. It was about a guy on Twitter that kind of called that he was going to be the next player that was going to be investigated for alleged gambling. So it's been a lot of alleged stuff so far. There's one more video that we're going to play. And this was kind of Malik saying like what teams he possibly would want to play for if he does get cleared of this alleged gambling.
To either come back to the Pistons or, like I said, there's some other teams interested as well.
So said the Pistons, he's still open to coming back to the Detroit Pistons, but he also said there are some other teams that are interested in Malik to sign. Now, for the Detroit Pistons, I don't know what the contract details are on the Javonte Green signing. I don't know if it's a vet's minimum. I don't even know if it's a guaranteed deal because we know this front office and their guaranteed deals. They're very crafty with the contracts that they give out. I'm sure we will get some contract details of what exactly he signed, if it's guaranteed, if it's non-guaranteed. But, assuming the Pistons didn't actually give him a guaranteed deal, they have vet minimums available. They have biannual exceptions. I think they have one available if they want to sign Malik that way. So it'll be interesting to see what does happen with this off the court drama right now surrounding Malik's name. Wishing him well, just as a human being. Outside of basketball, I mean, I've kind of spoke my piece on it last Thursday with Sean Murphy and Eric Vincent. If you guys saw that podcast, definitely check it out if you want a good laugh. It was just 2 hours of fun with those two. But there was another tweet I do want to put on the screen. This was actually Brett Siegel, because a lot of you guys were spamming his mentions, asking about what the Detroit Pistons could possibly do with the final roster spot. And this is what Brett tweeted to kind of respond to Pistons fans. And he says, quote, "Lots of people have been asking me about the Pistons' 15th roster spot. My understanding is they are keeping an open spot for Malik Beasley pending his off-the-court problems. Until the gambling investigation is over, his NBA future remains a mystery." So that is what Brett is hearing. Brett is a national reporter for ClutchPoints.com. He is reporting that, from his understanding, the Detroit Pistons are keeping their final roster spot open to see what does happen with Malik Beasley, see what happens with this gambling investigation. If he is cleared, the Detroit Pistons are interested in bringing him back. And I've honestly, I really would not be opposed to it, you guys. I really wouldn't. I think when you look at the offseason that they had, bringing in a Karis LeVert that is going to do a lot for you. He's very versatile in terms of how the Pistons could possibly use him, can handle the ball, and score at all three levels. Really like him as a defender. I think he's very versatile in that way too. Duncan Robinson can, kind of be that motion shooter. I mean, if you have two shooters like a Malik Beasley and a Duncan Robinson, assuming Malik does, beat these allegations and beats the charges and he's innocent. I think that's actually kind of exciting if you're a Piston fan. You can get him on a pretty cheap deal. Maybe you get him on a vets minimum. Maybe you use the biannual exception to kind of sign Beasley that way. But it'll be interesting to kind of see what does happen with Malik. Didn't want to kind of just, Matt, have a short little podcast with you guys today. But I do want to kind of get into some comments with you guys. We got a comment from Marcus Newsome. Great signing. Javonte Green plays defense like a Piston. We'll love you. Yeah, I mean, that's his calling card, Marcus. He's more known for his defensive ability, not really his offensive ability. I think Pistons fans will like him. Young OG 3-3. I don't know, man. The Knicks series was a dead giveaway. I think the more I think about it, now that we know about the allegations, you have to kind of add context to that Knicks series. He had to just be stressed the hell out, because maybe he knew that this was going to happen. I'm not giving him any passes. I thought he was really bad in that Knicks series, honestly. His shots just weren't falling. He had one game where the shots were falling a little bit more routinely. But man, I'm not sure. I'm not going to sit up here and say that, he was missing on purpose, because some of the shots he usually routinely makes, they were just hitting the rim. They just weren't going in. But time will tell whether he's innocent or guilty. Did want to kind of have just a conversation about it. There are a couple of comments that I did star. I got a comment from Tony J. Pistons winning a 3-and-D wing tells me they think Asar and Tobias will handle the bulk of the minutes at the 4. I think Holland will split minutes at the 3. I think you maybe made a typo with Campbell and Green, but I do agree with you. I think the Pistons not looking to try to get a power forward this summer, Tony. I think they look at Asar in the way that he can play multiple positions. Um, I think he's more than capable of playing backup power forward with Tobias if need be. Getting another 3&D wing. Um, I kind of view it as kind of like the Wendell Moore thing from last year, where he was kind of in this same situation archetype, if you will, more of a shooting guard, small forward type. But I'll have to wait and see how these rotations kind of just pan out. But if they don't sign a backup power forward, maybe they kind of look at signing one, but we'll have to wait and see. Like, there's the whole like they might be waiting for the allegations things to end and to give him that last contract. Um, Ryan, would Cade pass him the ball down the stretch? Point shaving, I wouldn't trust him. Like I said, I'm not. I'm not gonna say he was point shaving. I think Cade would still pass Malik the ball. Ryan. Um, all these are just allegations. There Nothing has been proven whether he's innocent or guilty. Um, I think Cade would pass the ball to anyone on the team, but we'll kind of have to wait and see, man. How will we use Ivy this year coming off an injury? Great question. So I think what you'll see with Ivy is he'll be in the starting lineup next to Cade, but they're going to stagger him with the second unit. Now, will they maybe have him on a minute restriction? I'm not entirely sure. We'll probably get some word from the reporters here in the city whether or not Jaden Ivey is going to be on a minute restriction. But if I had to guess, Jaden Ivey and Cade are the starting backcourt, and then Ivy does have a little bit of backup point guard responsibility there. But Karis LeVert also might be in there as well in terms of just handling the basketball and being the point guard out there with them. And maybe Ivy's off ball, so he doesn't have to handle the ball each and every possession. I think JB is going to use this roster in a lot of different creative ways, kind of like how he had Asar Thompson bring the ball up because Cade was getting blitzed. I could see JB doing the same thing with LeVert bringing the ball up the court, just in case maybe Ivy is hot and they're trying to blitz him from distributing or scoring the basketball. But I think you'll see a bulk of Jaden Ivey and Karis LeVert handle the rock with the second unit. Hope this does answer your question, young OG through and through. Appreciate the question as always. Tobias and Asar is an excellent power forward rotation. Stewart can stretch and guard if he's forced to play the four as well. Yeah, I think so too. I think when I look at Stewart, because he did play power forward under Monty Williams and under Dwayne Casey, I think what JB realized with Stewart is he's really good at being a backup center. Like, if you kind of look at just the numbers of him protecting the rim, they're just gaudy numbers. Stu did such a good job of just protecting the rim last year, and I think that's what we'll see is him backing up Jalen Duren. I don't know if we'll see Isaiah Stewart play backup power forward. I just don't. I think he's capable. He's shown the ability to stretch the defenses out. He's shown the ability to initiate dribble handoff sets. But I think Isaiah Stewart is just going to be a backup center on this basketball team. Now, things could change. JB may want to experiment with Stewart the four, whether, Tobias is, injured, or maybe they want to look at a different set with Stewart power forward. But, if you want to have Asar as a backup power forward, kind of stagger him like you would stagger Jaden Ivey with going from a shooting guard to a point guard, I think JB could do that. And you also have to remember, like, Asar is not going to have a minute restriction this year, you guys. He's just not. He's going to have a fully healthy offseason. This is his first offseason where there's no restrictions. There's no blood clot, so he's probably going crazy this summer. And I think that there is an excitement level right now in the city with Pistons fans with Asar taking a big jump. I'm personally excited. I think he's going to have a really big year. But maybe you see staggering with Asar, backing up Tobias Harris, but it'll be interesting. Like when you look at this depth chart, I think there's a lot of different things they can do with Karras and Duncan and Javonte Green now. So I'm excited. I'm really excited. We'll do a couple more questions and then we'll wrap this pod up. Marcus has a comment. Ivy will be a perennial sixth man of the year winner. He's going to be the best backup point guard in the league. Man, you're gonna ruffle some feathers with that comment, Marcus. You really are. Um, Honestly think like when you look at Jaden Ivey, he showed the ability last year when he came back from that toe injury. Like he was starting to put it back all together. Like he was starting to put some pretty solid games. The 3-point shot was falling. Him and Cade look good out there together. I think he's going to be your starting two guard this year. Now, whether or not he's the long-term two guard on this team, we don't have answers yet. We don't know. He's extension eligible, hasn't been extended. Neither has Jalen Duren. So, I mean, there's still a lot of questions up in the air, and I think this front office can afford to be a little bit patient. Personally, I think with Jaden Ivey, they don't have to give him an extension this summer. They can just go into this season and still be in evaluation mode with him to kind of see like what he does look like with Cade Cunningham, with brand new vets on this roster, everyone being a year older, taking a step in development, and maybe he is the long-term two guard on this basketball team. But I don't really view Jaden Ivey as a backup point guard on this basketball team. I think the only reason why we saw him play backup point guard is because we didn't sign one. And again, we didn't sign a backup point guard. You have Marcus Sasser on this roster right now, but I've told you guys, I'm just going to say it again. Marcus Sasser is not a point guard. He's more of an off-ball guard. He's at his best when he can just focus on scoring, not setting up the offense each and every possession. He's capable to do it maybe once every 3 possessions, but not every possession. Honestly, think the only reason why we saw Ivy with the second unit is because we didn't have a backup point guard. Maybe you think Donis Jenkins could be that backup point guard. Don't really know. Maybe they'll sign one. Maybe they'll trade for one again at the deadline. But Jaden Ivey to me is going to be in the starting lineup. He'll be your starting two guard this season. I just don't really view him as a six man. I know some people have said that they view him as a 6-man type of player. I just don't see it. Tony J, would you give up a first round pick for PJ Washington? He's a free agent this summer. Probably not. I like PJ. I just don't know if I would give up a first. It might take a first to get him because Dallas might be asking for maybe one of our young guys that might be asking for a rotational piece. But he, like you mentioned, Tony, he is a free agent after this summer. I think he would be a perfect backup for Tobias Harris. I think a lot of Pistons fans have looked at the trade exception that we did get from Dennis Schroeder, sign and trade with the Kings. He fits right into that exception if you want to do it that way. But I probably wouldn't trade a first. I would hold on to my first because I believe that the Pistons are going to make a pretty big upgrade at the trading deadline this season. I really do. I think given the season they had, given, facing the Knicks in the first round, battle testing them, really thought they had a chance to win that series if, we got a couple more whistles our way. But I think they want to hold on to their first round picks, Tony, in case maybe the disgruntled star does become available, or maybe there's someone out there that this Pistons front office really wants to pair next to Cade Cunningham and this core. But I do think that they will make a pretty big splash mid-season. Camille, I think we can acquire him with multiple second rounders. They are close to the second apron. Yeah, I don't really know what a PJ Washington asking price is. I'm probably the worst person to ask in terms of just valuation with guys around the league. I like PJ Washington, Camille. I do. I'm just not really entirely sure what his market or current availability is. I think some people believe because Dallas got Cooper Flag, maybe they kind of think that PJ is expendable. I know Dallas happens to like him quite a bit. I like him as a player. I think he's just a solid power forward. He can start situations if you need him to. He can come off the bench if you need him to, can hit some threes, play some pretty solid defense, but I don't really know what his value is. I really don't. I am Pistons Turkey, by the way. I'm still preaching. Oh man, shout out to you, man. I've never actually seen your face. I always see you on Twitter all the time. So shout out to you, Camille. Pistons Turkey. If you guys don't follow him on Twitter, definitely do. Man, I had no idea that was you. Do have a couple more comments with you guys. Got Tony again. Could Detroit be taking on a unwanted contract for the exemption to get another first round pick? Ooh, good question. Good question. I feel like the reason why they took the exception is to use it sooner than later. I think they'll probably use it at the trading deadline, personally. If there's a player that becomes available that they feel that they can flip to get a first, kind of like the OKC approach where they just took on a bunch of guys that kind of had, bigger contracts and flipped them for something of value. Maybe. I just believe that they're going to use that exception to get a guy that can contribute right now. I think with the exception, Tony, 14 million, you could stack it with, I'll just use this player as an example. You could stack it with like Duncan Robinson. So you're closer, you're in the 30 million range, right? So I think when you look at this roster and the way the contracts are distributed, they can get to those bigger contracts that we've talked about. Like we've talked about Lauri Markkanen on this podcast before. Like they can get to a Lauri Markkanen number a lot easier now because they have guys that make more than rookie deals. Like when we were talking about the Pistons trying to acquire like another, big player or a big fish, they had the players, like they had Cade, Ivy, Asar, Duran, but all those guys were on rookie deals, right? So you have more stackable contracts. You have Tobias Harris who's on an expiring. You have, Duncan Robinson who's on a very team-friendly deal. Like it's only fully guaranteed this year, and then it's like partially guaranteed, I believe 2 or 3 million for the remainder of the 2 years of the 3-year deal that he signed. So I think if they do look at using this, it's going to be for a player that can contribute, maybe try to get them to, win a first round playoff series, go pretty far in the playoffs. I don't really know if they're in the mindset of looking to, use that exception, take on a guy that maybe they don't really feel is a long-term fit to flip for a first. I think if we were kind of like in the same situations as like the Charlottes and the Washingtons, possibly. But it'll be interesting to see. Marcus Newsom will end up with Josh Hart next season. We'll make a deep playoff run and sign a high-end second-tier free agent. I like the prediction. I've been a big Josh Hart fan for a while. But we'll see. We'll see. I don't know. A high-end second-tier free agent. I'd like to know what you think a second-tier free agent is. I need a name because now you got me thinking. It's not my face, big bro. It's Louise. Okay. I don't know, man. You never know, like on social media, Camille. Like sometimes, like people hide behind avatars. I'm not really entirely sure, but I'll check out your Twitter when I do get off. We'll see. Low first round picks are so valuable with the second apron in team building. I agree with you, Tony. I do. I think when you look at this new apron, teams now really have to hit the draft. They really have to hit the draft with the second apron. I just don't see the Pistons really using that exception to take on a contract to try to flip it for a future first. I think the way I see it with the Pistons is they'll use this exception to either take a player, like I'll use Atlanta as an example. Like Atlanta used an exception so they could sign Nickeil Alexander-Walker, right? Like that was a big player this summer. Like a lot of Pistons fans thought that, Nickeil Alexander-Walker would be a really good fit on the Pistons, and I tend to agree. But they used part of an exception to get him. So I think the Pistons will definitely use this exception very strategically because Trajan and his front office seem like they have a plan of what they want to do. We'll have to see if, everything they do actually, gets us out of the first round and possibly, make the Eastern Conference Finals and, all those fun conversations that we'll be like having during the off season. But I did not mean flip the player for first. We take someone nobody wants for an apron team and get a first with it. Okay, I see what you're saying now. I still kind of just see them, maybe they do that. I'm not sure, Tony. I don't know. Like you kind of look at like what Boston did. Like they were kind of forced to trade Kristaps. They were forced to trade Drew Holiday, but both I know Drew Holiday. He was not even in the $14 million exception range. I don't remember what Kristaps Porzingis number was exactly. I'd like to assume he was more than a $14 million deal, but sure. I mean, if you can find a team that is really hard capped in the apron and you think that, they can contribute and maybe possibly, get a first with it for taking on that contract, maybe I'm not sure. I don't really know if we're going to see teams really attach first to get off contracts anymore, especially with, like you just mentioned, the new apron, the new CBA. I think first round picks are going to be harder to find unless you're New Orleans and you trade 10 spots up to get your guy. But that's a problem we don't have to worry about anymore as Pistons fans. If you know, I mean, trading up 10 spots with Atlanta just to get a guy that's already injured. Tough look. But appreciate you guys watching this for the past 30 minutes as always. Hope you guys are having a great night. They want to kind of touch on the Javonte Green stuff. Also kind of touch on the Malik Beasley situation as well. Pistons are reportedly, keeping that roster spot open just in case he does kind of clear with the allegations. But let me know what you guys thought of tonight's podcast. If you like the live streams, if you don't, we'll go back to premieres. But I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Hope you guys are having a great night. And as always, go Pistons. Peace.